Hey, good morning. This is John. Today is Monday, July 25th, around 20 to 8 in the morning. And I just wanted to come and talk to you about a verse that maybe you know or don't, but you will when I talk to you about it. It's actually two verses, and it's found in Jeremiah, right? And God's talking about two different things. He's talking about if you don't trust Him, what's going to happen. But if you do trust Him, how amazing your life is going to be. And, you know, I live in the United States. I live in the state of Mississippi, okay? I grew up in Connecticut. I've been in different states. So if you're hearing me, you don't live in the United States. I get it. But what's occurring here and what we're experiencing is unprecedented. I mean, we have enormous inflation. We can't get supplies, baby formula, even food. I go into Walmart and it's not like when the pandemic came and everything was wiped out, but there are certain food items that you don't see that if they come in, people just grab them. It's the most amazing thing. So again, because they keep talking about a food shortage, and I remember during the pandemic that God said there was going to be a famine or a food shortage, if you want to look at that, to me, and I shared that. It's early on in my messages, and it's occurring. We're seeing it happen. The supply chain. There's a lot of ineptness in this country right now. And again, I'll just say this, this is just my anger talking. But if the person who was in charge of this country was running a major corporation, they wouldn't be running that major corporation anymore. They would be fired. But here, because of our political system, the way we do things, he has 3 more years to destroy us. There's people that have the Midas touch, everything turns to gold. This person, and he was never anything, even his whole career as a politician. See, I won't even say his name. I just cannot believe this person sits as the president of the United States and does nothing but destroy our country on a daily basis. Their lies, they just feed us lies, and they're so entrenched in their lies and their deception is that they talk to you as they speak it out as if it's truth. So, I mean, I don't understand, excuse me, how a lot of people sleep at night if they have a conscience, but it's just remarkable. And look, I can go on and on about this person, but here's the thing: God puts those people over us. Now, I understand it. I mean, I know I know what's happening and where we're moving towards. I mean, the rapture at some point is going to occur. And God is going to call us home, and the Antichrist is going to step forward. So, again, everybody's focusing coming the November elections, okay? The midterm elections. If it happens, that's God's grace. In my mind, because again, they're not panicking. They're not changing their message. They have no desire to do anything but continue their destructive path and create false narratives and lies. I believe they will create something to create. They will keep us from going to voting like we normally do. Or there will be some other plot. Anyway, I don't want to get it. I mean, these are just my thoughts, but I'm just telling you that God puts the good over us and allows the bad over us. If you read in the Bible, there's good judges and then there's bad judges. They have a time of prosperity and then they don't. I mean, it just keeps going back and forth over Israel. Anyway, if you aren't in this country, well, you probably have experienced inflation. So this has all become new to us. And it's not like, oh, well, now you understand what we're going through. No, that you need someone or something that it doesn't have that kind of experience, so that in turn they can help those that are. The problem is there's too much corruption in this world. Well, we know that anyway. We don't wrestle with flesh and blood. So the demonic forces and this havoc that's being created, well, this is the world we live in. Thank God, he says, he overcame the world. So if you don't live in this country, so you have other things happening. China and wanting to make moves on a country that's free and democratic,
Taiwan.
And, and Russia moving into the Ukraine. And then look at all the money, I'm getting off track again, that we have sent. Just imagine, for once, if they would just use the money to benefit us. But no, we don't deserve it. We're not good. Though everybody comes here, we're an awful country. Anyway, I'm getting off the subject. Sort of. So, because it says, the reason why I'm bringing it up, it says if you trust in the Lord. Well, this country doesn't trust in the Lord. We have people within the country that trust in the Lord, but the person at the top does not. The prior person did, Donald Trump. He never admits to being born again, but I know where he was, and I know certain churches he went into and spoke. There's no way if he went in there, he didn't come to a knowledge of God, not with the men of God that were around him in that church, those churches. So in my heart, he is, but you can't really say that because it's going to cause, people to get really crazy. I mean, we're already being isolated and made to look like we're the reason for racism, because there was slavery in the Bible and all that, and the history of the United States is all wrong, and everything we do is wrong. But within our country, there are those that are believers. It's kind of like Abraham talking to Jesus and with Lot. If there's one there, will you not destroy the city? And when God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, well, he removes those that are his. Lot, he removed them. Did he deserve it? No. Do we deserve it? No. So it's the same thing with us. When God's wrath is going to be poured out on this world, well, we're not here. That's why there's the rapture. We'll be going home, and then that's when everything starts to break down even worse, because the Antichrist can now come forward. There's nothing restraining him. But the scripture I wanted to talk to you about is Jeremiah, and it's in chapter 17, and I'm sure you've heard it. I'll just read it. Again, I like to read it out of the New Living Translation. It says, "But blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They are like trees planted along a riverbank, with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. So, again, here in our country right now, we're going through heat like never before across the whole country. Almost every state is experiencing tremendous heat. So when I look at this, and this is, again, I go into the Bible Hub and I like to break it down because I want to see, again, what are the words that I'm reading? What is the richness or the meaning or the depth behind the word? And just the word blessed or blessed is, that it means to bless, but it says there to kneel. Isn't that interesting? So when I see that, it's the word blessed when it says to kneel as well, I see that as an action of humbleness, as in respecting God's authority and coming before him and recognizing that he's God, and we kneel before him and we recognize that he is Lord. It also says every knee will bow. Okay? So, but that's not a blessing at that point. But when God's blessing you, it's a humbling thing, and you fall to your knees because you realize you're not worthy of this because of our sinful nature, and we didn't pursue God, but he found us and restored us. He created us, and he's such a good God that he just doesn't stop there. He's going to super abundantly bless us, even during the most horrific times, even during a famine, even during high inflation, gas. If we can turn and trust is a difficult thing, right? Where we confidently hold on and cling to God. Okay? Now, again, if you're like me, sometimes you're a yo-yo. You're up, you're down. Sometimes your faith is really, you're like, yeah, I know God is coming through. And then sometimes you're like, where are you, God? Okay? These are emotions. It doesn't mean you're a bad Christian or you're not doing living correctly or whatever like that. It's just a normal reaction sometimes. Sometimes things get the better of us, don't they? So kind of like Peter, we all use this analogy. He wants to walk on the water. Jesus says, come. The storm, he gets a little afraid and he starts to sink. But what happens? God doesn't say, forget you. He grabs your hand and he pulls you up. He pulls your faith back up. See, our faith isn't in faith. Our faith is in God. That's what makes it faith and makes it a reality. Is we don't just have blind faith and hope in nothing. Where our hope is in the living God who redeemed us and has a treasure full and a warehouse full of blessings for every one of us. That's trust, right? So in here, it's going to, like I said, it says they are like trees planted along a riverbank, right? So if you're planted, well, we know what that means, right? You're in there good, your roots are covered. And that's, again, it's going to express that. And you're by the water. And not only are by the water, it's not stagnant waters. It's a river, and it flows, and you're being supplied, and your roots that reach, it says, you're by a riverbank, and your roots reach deep into the water. So if you're by the river, well, it's flowing. It's not stagnant. So it's fresh, and it keeps you fresh, and your roots spread out, stretch out. This is the going deeper into the word. It's not just spread, but they stretch out, way out, so that you're always getting supplied. And when you get supply, well, you grow strong as a tree. That's what it says. You're like a tree. You aren't a tree, but you're like a tree in that sense that it's the roots are deep, they stretch out, and you're strong in the ground. You can't be knocked over either when the storms come, right? And when it says you're not going to be afraid, well, you're not, because you're in the presence of a God who's watching over you and tending to you and cultivating you. Think about if you plant flowers and you have a garden, think about how you care for your earthly garden, how you watch over the plants, keep them from diseases. If they're, especially like a tomato plant where they're difficult, the bugs, you got to keep that. And you grow tomatoes. There's my clock again chiming. So then if you translate that to God, who has planted you by the waters, the river flowing, well, he's going to keep you protected. He's going to make sure that your leaves are green and that your roots are deep and that you're growing as he wants you to grow. He doesn't just plant you there. He tends to you. He prunes you, right? We don't like that word because that means God's trying to correct us, but it's necessary. So he prunes the tree so that it grows, and it grows richly and deep. And when it says the word green, it's not just, I find this fascinating because it says, well, your leaves are going to be green. But do you know when you break down that word in the original text, which would be Hebrew, right? The word means luxuriant, 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 and fresh. Well, what does luxuriant mean? See, a lot of times, so in our Bible, it says the color. So we think color, green, lush, like a leaf, right? But it's this is the word defined, characterized by rich or profuse growth. Rich and elaborate, extremely productive. So, so when a tree is being productive and it's healthy, well, the leaves are green. But so our Bible says green, and you go like, okay, I get it. But there's more there. It's rich and elaborate and extremely productive. This is God talking to you about how he's going to take care of you in a time of drought around you, or even if there isn't any drought, when everything's normal. But when there are times of drought, in other words, inflation, problems occurring. So if you look at the word drought, that word in reality is dearth, Dearth. dearth. What is that saying? So we see the word drought. So we think, well, there's no